Does exclusivity invite excellence? Does it reflect quality? What about value? Would it be possible to have all of this in a form factor that's more for modernism than vintage classic aesthetics? If scarcity is the name of the game, today's brand certainly knows how to play, and could be dubbed the Rolex of microbrands. With many of its watches selling above retail on the secondary market, it speaks volumes about its quality and desirability. Yet does it being scarce have any negative windfalls? Today's watch certainly entertains us by being a watch that could sing all the high notes and still sing louder than most other watches. Yet at times, it hits such lows that it makes me ponder existentialism and nihilism to the nth degree and beyond. Hello, my name is Martin, and I have a lust for watches. Presenting to you today's timepiece, the Zelos Spearfish Frost. Zelos, a name that evokes value, quality, and above all, rarity. It's a micro brand, if we can even call it that anymore, that has a cult-like following and many oftentimes sell out faster than you can scratch your behind. It's an anomaly if you aren't part of its Facebook group and somehow ended up actually buying one of their watches from their website. There's more than enough stories of the official website being hammered by thirsty watch collectors that it simply failed to load the item to the shopping cart and was sold out by the time the page refreshed. So it's a mystery to me how I was fortunate enough to actually purchase the Spearfish through their website. When I had last checked their website previously, it was listed as being sold out, but Elshan must have gotten the last few pieces in and put them back online. So it's not any surprise to find that mine is numbered 194 of 200. All of Zelos watches are limited runs, and so therein lies their scarcity and ability to retain their values, if not ask for a premium on the gray market. As a watch collector, I'm not too keen on limited runs, but I can't really tell Elshan what to do, as whatever he's doing has made him and his watch company a very successful business enterprise. Hold on to your fishing rods and let's take a closer look at the Zelos Spearfish to see if it's worth the catch. As always, we need to discuss history. Zelos, founded by Elshan Tang in 2014, is named after the Greek deity of zeal and passion, also sometimes known as Zelos. Zelos was the son of Paul, a Titan, and Styx, an Oceanid. Zelos counts Nike, victory, Kratos, strength, and Bia, force, as his siblings, and the four of them act as winged enforcers of Zeus's throne. Zelos also personifies rivalry, emulation, jealousy, and envy. Funnily enough, all things that come to mind when you see someone wearing a Zelos. Jokes aside, Zelos is such a young company that compared to the giants of horology, you would not be amiss to call them babies. Yet here they are today, making huge waves not only in its backyard of Singapore, but all over the world. Oftentimes, Zelos incorporates rare and exquisite materials into their designs, making some very unique timepieces that sets them apart from other brands. Mostly using movements from Swiss manufacturers ETA, Sellita, but also Japanese manufacturers like Seiko and Citizen, it certainly isn't shy about shopping around to get the most for the dollar spent. With renowned customer service, sometimes handled directly by the owner Elshan himself, it's no wonder that the brand itself has become synonymous with quality. Let's discuss further about the movement inside today's timepiece, a Joux Perret G100. Joux Perret was founded in the 1990s as Joux SA. It is named after its founder, Jean-Pierre Jacquet, and was named to Joux Perret following his 2003 arrest for counterfeiting and forgery. It was then sold to numerous investors over the years, and finally on March 5, 2012, Citizen became its new owners, outbidding fierce unnamed competitors. Before the acquisition by Citizen, Joux Perret had worked with Sellita and also supplied watch companies like Chanel, Tag Heuer, Hermes, Sin, Oris, and Hublot. Not their proudest moment, I'm sure. Overall, a very short history and very much fitting marriage between LJP and Zelos. So the only question is it a Swiss movement or a Japanese movement? On to the specs of the watch. Wingspan of 47 millimeters, width of 40 millimeters, 43.5 millimeters including crown, and a 20 millimeter lug width. Case thickness is a hair shy of 12 millimeters and weighs 140 grams and has a water resistance rating of 20 atm. Inside is a 24 jewel Joux Perret caliber G100 automatic movement with manual winding and hacking. It also comes with a tungsten rotor on a ball race with 7 ball bearings. It can store up to 68 hours of power and also comes with a date display at the 6 o'clock position. The glassware is flat sapphire on the top and bottom, creating a sapphire sandwich, and has AR coating on the inside. The Lume is a mix of C3X1 on the hands, indices, and bezel, while sporting BGW9 for the dial and second hand. Case and bracelet is 316L stainless steel and has a 1200 HV Vickers hardness hardened coating. This specific watch comes with a ceramic bi-directional 60-click 12-hour bezel and helps track a second time zone. You could use it to time things to the minute, should you have to, and I do find it unsettling at times being unable to line it up to the half-hour markers on the bezel due to the 60-click. I purchased the watch for $749 USD after its launch price had expired. It originally was $649 at release, and I purchased it in July 2022, and it was directly from Zelos. This watch is no longer available due to the limited run of Zelos watches and can only be found via gray market or secondhand. The watch was originally released end of February 2022. The Frost version here has a textured white dial, which isn't very noticeable at first, but under close scrutiny it can be witnessed, especially under hard lighting. The texture is very mild to say the least. It's not so pronounced and in your face. However, it's pleasant and not so loud that it distracts you from a pleasurable viewing experience. Very much like the name implies, it's like a frosted effect. Has a crunchiness to it with rivulets and chasms to give it dimensionality that's not commonly found in other watches. It really reminds me of coconut flesh with its distinctly white tone and indelible texture when you bite into it. The date window is beveled and has a smooth framing around it that really showcases the color-matched date display. At the top of the dial is the Zelos logo, applied with a black polish. The model name Spearfish is printed along with 200 meters, 660 feet on the bottom half above the date window in a nice splash of orange. The font is well chosen and very much defines the brand. It's modern and won't hark any vintage tones to boost itself. There are black minute markers printed along the outside of the dial and they go handsomely well with the contrasting white dial. The glassware is simple but well executed. It's flat and there is no distortion at all. And the AR coating is done well enough to block most of the reflections, but being only on the underside, you will still get some reflections which will be entirely unavoidable. The indices are applied and thus raised from the dial. Each one has 4 bevel sides with the edge at the back being elongated compared to the others. Each bevel is then raised even further from the dial, giving each one depth. The center of each index is filled with C3X1 lume and is surrounded on its sides and edge closest to the middle of the dial with a black border, providing a huge contrast boost next to the lume and the polished bevel on each index. The 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock indices are bigger than the others, while the 6 o'clock index is diminutive due to the date window, and the 12 o'clock index is the biggest with a double application of lume favoring the trapezoid dual lollipop. They all exude quality and there aren't any shortcomings to keep track of here. The hands are much like the rest of the watch, a real crowd pleaser. The hour hand is styled like a monolith and comes to an angular point. The minute hand has a cathedral style to it, but styled in a modern flavor. The seconds hand is the highlight here with its spritz of orange coloring. All 3 are filled with lume and the hour and minute hands are encased in a black outline. It's difficult to see, but the hour and minute hands have a bevel edge on either side, providing a bit of shape. However, it's unfortunate that the paintwork masks this mostly and hides the faces from coming to light. The second hand is definitely the most interesting of the 3. The orange paint isn't sprayed evenly all the way, so you end up getting a bit of gradation going from the center to the edge, which to me is an endearing charm of it. I'm not sure if this was intended or a byproduct of a poor paint job, but it's certainly a detail that's well appreciated by myself. It really breathes life into an otherwise clinical showcase of a watch and reminds you that a watch can capture more than just time. Probably the biggest selling point in this watch, and that's what attracts many to it, is the lume dial. It is quite the eye-catcher for the newbie watch collector, and it's not something you see all the time. There's enough lume on the watch to help it chug along throughout the night and really makes an entrance when you go through tunnels on a bright sunny day. There is C3X1 on the hands, indices, and bezel, and BGW9 on the dial. The dial lume isn't applied so heavily that it would block visibility. However, what I do find after some time is that when the lume starts to fade from the hands and the dial, they both appear to blend into each other. Blue and green are not too far off from one another in the lume world, and the eye has a hard time seeing between the two, so it's no mystery that as the lume starts to die, it almost becomes just a mishmash of green and blue, and you can't really tell the hands from the dial and vice versa. Initially it's fine because the C3 is so strong that you can easily tell it apart, but as the night drones on it becomes a visibility nightmare. So I can say from my experience that yes, it's a nice trick up its sleeve, but for practicality and legitimate real-world usage, it's not very useful, and I would rather have preferred a non-lume dial to really dig into the high-contrast viewing experience. I was that newbie watch collector, it seems. The case design, like the other aspects of the watch, is a modern design with brushed tops and sides, with polished bevels in between. The lines are sharp and focused. There are also more polished bevels found where the end link meets the case, giving this area a bit more visual interest. The grain on the top surfaces encircle the center of the watch, with the grain on the sides going depthwise from one glass side to the other. It is an exhibition caseback, which goes a long way in showing the Joux Perret movement and the tungsten rotor. Screw-down caseback and crown to help with a 200-meter water rating. The caseback is engraved with the brand and watch name, Zelos Spearfish 200 meters water resistance, sapphire crystal, Swiss Joux Perret movement, hardened 316L stainless steel, and the number of the watch. Mine comes in as 194 of 200. On the rotor is printed 24 joules Swiss made, so I guess it is Swiss? There is ample application of Côte de Genève on the movement, and as the rotor is non-custom, it ends up blocking most of the view, but there isn't too much to see, so no real loss there. The crown is chunky with the Zelos logo engraved, and it feels easy to grip and use. The actual winding is a bit on the grittier side if you're coming from Edo or Solita, but compared to Seiko or Miyota, it's quite on par. The crown also has semi-crown cards that alleviate any pressure points and integrates the crown into the case. There is a bevel on the bottom of the case that sits on the wrist to help take the edge off and increase wearability and comfort. Very nice looking bezel on this Spearfish. Though lacking any shape, it is fully functional and easy enough to use. It is a 60-click bezel and displays a 12-hour format for tracking a second time zone. The marks and numbers are all Lume, so legibility after the lights go out is convenient. It is bi-directional and being ceramic, sure to last a lifetime provided it's well cared for and not carelessly tossed around playing hot potatoes. The bezel has almost a matte finish, but there are very distinct concentric lines that go around in a circular pattern. The grip itself is almost non-existent, and with the bezel action being soft as it is, it probably could have done away with it entirely. There's very little resistance to the bezel, and I feel it actually may have been better off with a friction-style bezel instead. There's a little bit of backplay, but being bi-directional, I don't think it really matters all that much. Suffice to say, you aren't going to be timing any oxygen tanks with this, and so provided you know the time zone offset you need to align to, you should be pretty much good to go. The movement. Joux Perret G100 is a 68 power reserve movement beating at 28,800 bph with a 51-degree lift angle. It is outfitted with 24 joules and comes with a tungsten ball bearing rotor giving it a bit more heft. It's a unidirectional rotor, and some would argue it's easier to get rotor wobble from this, but I don't sense any of that from this movement. The movement is not a clone of the ETA 2824-2, instead it is a direct replacement for the same movement, or SW200-1. If you have a watch with either of these two movements, you could take the G100 and drop and replace it into the cases that house the former movements. In reality, the G100 is more akin to the Miyota 9015 than the ETA or Solita alternatives. It should also be noted that the G100 found in the Spearfish is the higher grade version named Soigné compared to the standard version. Yes, finally, the bracelet. I have to admit, I'm not a big bracelet fan on most watches. I do as a habit always buy bracelet with the watch, but in actual use and personal preference, I always end up going rubber or leather. It's usually just too uncomfortable, especially when you live a pretty active lifestyle. You want to pump out some push-ups? Well, good luck in a bracelet. You want to go for a bike ride? You'll really feel that top-heavy steel watch banging when you go over curbs and speed bumps. I just find the bracelet to be a bit of a constricting boa, always ready to put your hand and wrist to sleep with its grasp. So it was very surprising to find that this Zelos bracelet to be one of the most comfortable I've ever worn. The links are well articulated and small enough to wrap your wrist in a smooth fashion, but still give it that awesome presence you can only get with a bracelet. The female end links also really help with the comfort of being able to fit smaller wrists, and this will be a sure crowd pleaser. The links are all brushed except the bevel sides and tops, which are high polish, and make this thing look so sweet in the shifting light. There are zero hard edges and has really opened my eyes to what a good bracelet can bring to the table. The clasp is double pusher deployant and has a milled clasps. It comes with no micro adjust tools, but it does come equipped with a toolless adjustment. The bracelet is also attached to the watch using two quick release pins that make it toolless to take the bracelet off. The only downside with the bracelet is how high the clasp comes off the bracelet links. So I have dug a few divots across a few desks in many offices and also the home dining table. The pros. Modernity embodied in a watch. It's a masterclass in modernism, and it does certainly carry over some cues from the past, but it's so far removed that it's not even an afterthought. The only minuscule traces of vintage are found in the color scheme from the all-encompassing Rolex Explorer 2 and the Cathedral Minute Hand. All other aspects of the watch scream modern aesthetics and will surely go down in history as a watch of the times and possibly even be considered a classic in the future to come. The bold contrast of the black of the hands onto the dial is not only highly visible, but a true statement of the watch itself. It's not going to go away quietly, but it instead be as loud as it can, making sure you are paying attention to it. The texture on the dial is a nice treat, and though it doesn't pop so much as the GMT version of the newly released Spearfish, it's still a nice texture that makes you do a double take to appreciate the subtleties. It's nice to get an exhibition case back. Even without much to look at, it's still a bonus, though I do wonder if it would have been better to just go sterile and save a millimeter here instead. The bracelet is by far the most appreciated part of the watch for me, and it truly does make you realize what a well-executed bracelet can do for a watch. For the cons. Well, the modern aesthetic on the watch is not for everyone. Some of us appreciate a bit of nostalgia and what we are used to. That's why we go to the same old shop and buy the same old donut and coffee for the past 30 plus years. Those same songs you've been listening to since you were a teenager? Yeah, about that. I don't want to come across as an old fart, but I do appreciate a bit of design language that comes from some sort of a past in history. It's not Zelos' fault, but being a new company, it has to take on a different viewpoint in their designs, and I applaud them for their work so far, but it's not for everyone, and only you can decide if it's for you. Zelos as a brand makes all sorts of designs, so perhaps out there you'll find one that fits you more than the Spearfish. For myself, I've just not been able to bond very much with this design. I've been thinking about it for the past while, wondering why that is. I've come to the conclusion that it's due to the lack of shaping on the bezel and front crystal. If it has some distortion on the glass, or if the bezel had some sort of slope to it, I think it would have been a great addition to the watch. The bevels found on the top and bottom of the case are functional, but they don't really stir any emotions. Perhaps they need to be slightly bigger. Perhaps the side profile needs to have a bit more shaping to it. Overall, I felt the watch to be quite boxy, even though it's got enough edges not to be considered a box. As good as the bracelet is, the quick release pushers I find sometimes dig into the back of my wrist, and they just feel sharp to the touch. In the latest GMT release, they have done away with the hard edges and now provide a ball end instead of a flat top. Would I ever repeat this purchase should I lose or break the watch beyond repair? As much as the Zelos brand prints itself next to the dictionary entry for value and quality, I just haven't been able to bond with the Spearfish. I won't go so far as to say I will never buy a Zelos again, but I will take a deeper look at my own needs and the watch itself to really see if it's something that's right for me. Well, that's if I can even buy it before it sells out. Yeah, good luck with that. Zelos, as I've discussed over and over, here really does represent value and quality, especially across the whole price spectrum, all the way from the affordable to the more expensive side. Some of their timepieces can go up to $12,000 USD, so it's fair to say that it's not for everybody. And due to their limited numbers, it may not even be ever possible to purchase a watch at retail, and you may have to pay a premium on the secondary market. I really feel that Zelos represents that exclusivity that's not seen in other watch brands at the affordable price bracket. And as much as I hate to admit it, I think that's what really bugs me about the watch, especially the brand as a whole. I'm certainly not going to cry foul and demand justice, but I am going to express my feelings with freedom of speech on my side. I absolutely abhor exclusivity, and as I feel it really inherently breeds superiority over a group that doesn't have what the minority has. We live in a capitalistic society. I get it. We can't all drive Civics and be happy with ourselves. Now, maybe we could. Don't hate me. I only picked Civic as an example, and you could have picked any econo box. Now, when a watch company, whether they be big, Rolex, or small, Zelos, puts up barriers to ownership, not due to pricing, but simply due to scarcity of their own goods, I feel it really does a disservice to the consumers who are willing to pay retail prices for their goods. And as a business owner, it's certainly not recommended to flood the market with your items. But when you have a throng of people that are at your doorsteps, willing to sacrifice their newborn just at a chance to buy your items, I feel like why not have at it, you know? Am I being unreasonable? Maybe I'm being a bit jaded. It's not that clear to me, but it just doesn't sit right with me. I won't say definitely it's right or wrong, but if it was me, I wouldn't subject the items to limited runs and instead gauge interest with either a down payment or a full payment, and from those numbers make the amount needed plus a certain percent extra just to make sure that you've got your core group of followers covered, plus any newcomers that may be willing converts to your brand. I hope that the future Zelos will increase their limited numbers so that it could actually give people who aren't using Facebook or checking the website or news feeds for release dates a possible chance at owning a piece of value and quality. Thank you for watching to the end, and let me know in the comments what you think of the watch. Do you own any Zelos watches that you have bonded with? What are they, and what really cemented that bond for you? Let me know in the comments below. It would be nice to hear your side of the story to see if it really helps me. And if not, at the very least, this watch will be available for sale in the near future for any fans that might have missed this version of it on the website. If you like this video and you would like to see more, you know what to do. Until next time, keep it real. Bye-bye. Watch less.